Hello there, very good evening and welcome to the news tonight. I'm Tracy Shilshi, and in the next 30 minutes I'll be getting you all the day's top stories from India and across the world, starting with the headlines. Prime Minister Modi declassifies 100 secret files related to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose as political leaders pay tributes on his 119th birth anniversary. The National Investigation Agency arrests 13 of the 14 suspects detained on Friday. Officials say they received instructions to carry out sensational attacks across the country. Five years on, unrest over falling employment levels revisits Tunisia. The nation is placed under dawn to dusk curfew. And in cricket, India salvage pride in Australia, win the fifth one-day international match by 6 wickets to end the series 4-1. Top story this evening, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today released in the public domain 100 secret files on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. The files are expected to throw light on the disappearance of the freedom fighters 70 years ago. Meanwhile, political leaders cutting across party lines also paid tributes to Bose on his 119th birth anniversary.
On the 119th birth anniversary of Subhash Chandra Bose, the Prime Minister releasing 100 secret files, many throwing light on his disappearance and the controversy surrounding his death. The files were declassified and put on digital display at the National Archives of India in New Delhi. The NAI plans to release digital copies of 25 declassified files on Bose every month. While two commissions of inquiry concluded that Netaji had died in a plane crash in Taipei on August 18, 1945, a third probe panel headed by Justice M.K. Mukherjee suggested that Bose was alive. The files released on Saturday suggest that Bose died in a plane crash in Taipei on August 18, 1945.
If there's some mystery, it would be nice to know. It won't have any profound influence on Netaji's vision. To concentrate on the peculiar circumstances of his death, ignoring his message of unity, secularism, democracy would be a huge mistake.
Chandra Kumar Bose, spokesperson of the Bose family and grandnephew of Subhash Chandra Bose, welcomed the release of the documents, calling it a day of transparency in India. Many others, including political leaders, appreciated the Modi government's decision. There was also criticism for previous Congress governments since the Nehru era for what Bose's family members called was an attempt to hide the truth.
सबसे अहम बात यह है कि ये तथ्य जो है देश के नागरिक से छुपाया क्यों रखा गया है, छुपा के क्यों रखा गया था, इसमें ऐसी कौन सी ऐसी तथ्य है जो लोगों के सामने आने से देश की क्षति हो सकती है, या कहीं पे क्या ऐसी बात है कि देश को जानने की अधिकार नहीं है.
It is a era of transparency which under Prime Minister Mr. Modi has been brought, and in this era of transparency the history is certainly going to be rewritten.
एक फर्जी कागज है. जहां तक ये कागज जो बांटा जा रहा है, हमारी चुनौती है जो इसके पीछे हैं वो सामने आए, अपना नाम बताएं, ताकि उनके खिलाफ जो देश का कानून कहता है कार्रवाई की जाए.
Many leaders also paid tributes to Bose. In a tweet, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, Netaji's bravery and patriotism endears him to several Indians across generations. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi described him as a man of extraordinary courage, a patriot and a charismatic leader.
See, the first person to declassify any files was Mamata Banerjee's West Bengal government. So now more files are being declassified today. But the bigger picture is Netaji's memory, Netaji's deeds deserve the dignity of closure. And we do hope in the next 1 year, before the 23rd of January 2017, all this happens and there is closure.
By making the files public, the government hopes it has answered a long-standing public demand that is likely to help scholars to carry out research on Bose. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
I like that we just saw this political leader speaking. Politics not far behind, and the Congress today objected to a letter purportedly written by Jawaharlal Nehru Dated the 26th of December 1945, the controversial letter has been in circulation on social media for several years now, and it, however, was not among the files declassified today. The letter reportedly refers to Subhash Chandra Bose as a war criminal and is addressed to former England Prime Minister Clement Attlee. The Congress has called the letter mischievous and fake. Well, for more on this story, we're joined by Dr. Rakesh Bhatbayal, who is a historian at JNU, joining us in studio this evening. So the politics aside, we'll talk of that if you do have time later. But first of all, are you hopeful that now the controversies will be put at rest? We'll finally know what eventually happened.
No, among the historians, there was no controversy as such, because history as a profession, as a vocation goes on. People do new research, new icons are built, new icons are destroyed, or old icons are destroyed. This is a professional way the historians look at it. So far as historians in modern India is concerned, and those who have worked on this period, there was no controversy as such. We don't call them controversy. There are debates about roles of different individuals in particular contexts, or roles of certain individuals which goes against the context. So all these are debates within history. Now this is a new era where for sources of through which we construct history are taken out of the historian's domain and put them into the larger public domain to create another kind of historical narrative. And that is where the slight bit of discomfort must be felt among the historians. You must have noticed among the Netaji's family, one of their family members, his great nephew, Bose, Sugata Bose, who was an acclaimed historian from Harvard and is a member of parliament in India, who is here, he is nowhere to be seen. So therefore, that shows that it is not a debate about history or history writing, but something other than that. And we have to discuss about something other than that. What are those contexts? What are those issues? What are those? Why is it that there's a debate? There's a certain. Sometimes it looks like a manufactured demand from the country as such. Whereas we know that in the past there are two commissions already constituted, Samar Guha's and Mukherjee's, a lot of debates, and the commissions were constituted, they gave their report, and yet it seems like debate resurfaced. It's good, as Prime Minister Modi said, that sometimes debates needs closure, and as Derek O'Brien was also saying, that debate, which is not a historian's debate, there's a political debate, must need a closure. So that we have a dignified.
And the timing of it, even though today, of course, being the birth anniversary, but we cannot ignore the fact that West Bengal elections, of course, upon us. And, the government is, of course, trying to make it look like this could have been done much before. This is quite an easy process, and we'll be doing so in months to come, even more so. Are you a bit skeptical about the timing as well?
You may be right, but I don't get that Bengal election or not election, because as a historian, as a intellectual, as a person who teach in everyday class, for me, there are no perfect timing as such. So if it's done today, it's good, but I would at the same time seem to believe to myself that this era of transparency, of which this disclosure may be a part of, should also flow into, say, Information Commission and all other eras, all other areas or domains where we, for social scientists, need. For instance, yesterday, Thomas Piketty, the great new young political economist, who argued about in his book Capital that inequalities needs to be checked immediately, otherwise there are grave dangers. And he talked about India, where he says that getting data is the most difficult thing. So income tax return data is the most non-transparent domain. So therefore, I would rather, as a historian who grew up from these institutions in India, would like to see this transparency in most domains of public life, just not on the Netaji files.
But since we are on the Netaji files and you are talking about transparency, a lot of other researchers as well, your fellow researchers, saying that, a lot of the details actually are in the IB and the raw files, and that is what is key, and that is what will actually come out with a real picture. Also, a lot of those classified files with Russia as well, that is, of course, the key to it as well.
You see, this goes on. Files accumulate for everyone, including you and me. Maybe there are some files there somewhere. And historians' job, they're trained from my high school onwards. I've been trained to dig out files, but also the most important than the file themselves are how we contextualize the data that we cull from those files.
Yes.
And that is where most of the colleges are declining, training historians. And therefore, the debate over rewriting history is a very dangerous argument. That through these files, we don't rewrite history. We give history a new dimension.
Yes.
So therefore, while we talk about different data sets, different new facts and files available in different domains,
Yes.
we need to train our historians first rather than making public arguing that we are writing a new history with new files.
Okay.
Every 2 years, therefore, new files will emerge,
Yes.
and then political parties will say new history will be rewritten now.
Absolutely.
That doesn't happen in human history.
All right.
Human history goes in a different fashion. It's an academic tradition. Tradition needs to be nurtured. It has to be given. For instance, Indian History Congress meets every year.
Yes.
And fascinating details come from, data comes from different historians from even village, high
All right.
school, college. Those institutions needs to be nurtured.
All right. We leave it there for now. Thanks so much, sir, for joining us with those details on this big story.
Thank you,
here.
Tracy.
All right, on to more news now. And the National Investigation Agency today arrested 13 of the 14 suspects that it detained yesterday. The arrests were made after simultaneous searches at 12 locations in 6 cities, Bengaluru, Tumkur, Mangaluru, Hyderabad, Mumbai and Lucknow yesterday. The NIA officials said that they recovered circuits for detonating explosives during the searches. They claimed that unaccounted cash, jihadi literature, videos and material to prepare bombs were also found. All the arrested men are reportedly part of a group called the Janud-ul-Khalifa-e-Hind, or the Army of the Caliph of India. Officials said that the terror group had similar ideologies to that of the ISIS. They also disclosed that the suspects were under surveillance for quite some time. The decision to arrest them was taken after the group received instructions for carrying out some sensational attacks in the country. PJ Kurian, the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, has expressed his concern of the frequent disruptions in the House. He says that urgent steps are needed to restore parliamentary dignity. Kurian, who is attending the conference of presiding officers of legislative bodies in Gandhinagar, spoke to our correspondent Arvind Kumar Singh on the occasion.
सर कि इस समय सबसे मेजर चैलेंज क्या है जिस पर सबसे ज्यादा ध्यान देने की जरूरत है?
The major challenge we are facing is the disruption of the proceedings of the House, because due to some reason or other, justifiable or otherwise, members come to the well and disrupt, and we are not able to run the House. And for 1 or 2 days, maybe it can be accepted, understandable. But for a number of days, the disruption is continuing. This has to be stopped, because of disruption, the Parliament is not able to perform its functions. See, government is not held accountable. Bills are passed sometimes without discussion. And of course, in the Rajya Sabha, Honorable Chairman has not permitted passing the bill in the din. Therefore, some of the bills are there held.
कामकाज के दिन घट रहे हैं, स्टेट्स में तो बहुत खराब हालत है। तो क्या सर इसके लिए जो है जब छोटे असेंबलीज में 60 डेज और बड़े असेंबलीज में 90 डेज या लोकसभा राज्यसभा में 120 डेज, इसके लिए क्या कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में कोई अमेंडमेंट करने की जरूरत है आपके हिसाब से?
There should be an amendment to the constitution by which the parliament should meet at least 120 days, and assemblies, say legislatures of major states can sit up to 60 days, and smaller states may sit between 30 and 40 or 45 days. Such an amendment is needed in my view.
With that, let's take you through what else made news across the country today in our segment Nationwide. Kerala Excise Minister K. Babu has resigned after the Vigilance Court in Thrissur asked the Vigilance and Anti-Corruption Bureau to register a case against him in the bar bribery scandal case. The Vigilance Court also ordered that the first report in the case should be filed by the 22nd of February. Babu is the second minister in the UDF government to resign in the bar bribery case. The Himachal Pradesh police has ruled out the possibility of a terror angle to the murder of a car driver hired by 3 people for travel from Pathankot in Punjab. However, an alert had been sounded in the hill state after the driver's murder. His body was found near a bridge 3 days after he went missing. A Go Air flight bound from Bhubaneswar to Mumbai made an emergency landing in Nagpur following a bomb scare. All passengers were deplaned and a thorough check was carried out by security agencies at the Nagpur airport. Go Air officials at Bhubaneswar immediately informed the local police, which is investigating the matter. Chinese billionaire Wang Jianlin's Dalian Wonder Group has agreed to spearhead a $10 billion project to build an industrial park in India. This could become one of the biggest development projects in the country. Wonder Group signed a preliminary agreement with Haryana to build an industrial zone. A Wonder cultural tourism city and a residential district may also be developed as part of the project. Without a quick break here, we'll be back with more news. Stay with us.
The Nobel Prize, because of the statutes, is only given to 3 people. The Nobel Committee spends a lot of time thinking about it and figuring out which were the key ideas that made something happen. And the more the science is, rapidly communicative, the more these controversies will happen. Do not do anything you're not interested in, because you will never do well.
Watch Eureka with Nobel laureate Professor Venkatraman Ramakrishnan only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Let's talk weather woes now. And residents in North India woke up to a thick blanket of fog as the severe cold wave in the region continues to affect normal life. Flight schedules have been disrupted and rain and road traffic has been thrown out of gear. And there's little hope of respite in the coming days, with the Met Department saying that the conditions will prevail.
A thick blanket of fog greeted people in large parts of North India on Saturday. Vehicular movement was disrupted and normal life was thrown out of gear. As they stepped out of their homes, people were seen wrapped in heavy layers of clothes, trying to shield themselves from the cold. Bonfires were lit as everyone tried to keep warm. The overcast conditions kept the sun away as the fog caused day temperatures to dip by a few notches.
इस समय बहुत ठंड हो रही है, इतना कोहरा हो गया है कि घर से बाहर निकलना मुश्किल हो रहा है। बस जब आप तापके बस ठंड को दूर भगा रहे हैं, न बारिश हो रही है, न कुछ, इतना कोहरा हो जा रहा है कि कुछ दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है। बस सिर्फ ठंड में बहुत ज़्यादा हालत खराब हो जा रही है।
कोहरा बहुत पड़ रहा है और दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है और दुर्घटनाओं की संभावना बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गई है।
In the national capital too, dense fog engulfed the city early Saturday morning. Reduced visibility either delayed or cancelled several trains and threw flight schedules in disarray. The city had recorded its lowest temperature of the season on Friday at 4.2 degrees Celsius. Snowfall in states like Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh is the reason behind these frigid conditions. In Jammu and Kashmir, residents are facing a lot of issues due to the freezing cold conditions. The harshest period in winters in Kashmir is 40 days long. It starts on December 21st and lasts till January. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And not just in India, in the US too, a huge blizzard has begun to hit the East Coast and it's expected to dump record levels of snow from Washington to New York. Thousands of flights have been cancelled and people have been warned to stay at home. Washington is expected to be the worst hit. Here's a report.
Streets of Washington, D.C. blanketed in snow. The winter storm has made landfall, threatening record accumulations. Weather monitors warned the monster blizzard could bury parts of Middle Atlantic region under nearly 3 feet of snow and could bring winds up to 30 to 50 miles per hour.
The snow we anticipate is wet and heavy, which means we can expect to see down trees and power lines. The winds are expected to be 30 miles an hour, up to 50 miles an hour through Saturday evening. And we believe that we are going to see wind pick up throughout the day.
We're predicting that more than 50 million people will be affected by the snow event alone. And we're now working very carefully with the emergency management community, other government officials from federal to state to regional, local, the whole spectrum of decision makers out there.
Schools remain shut. Nearly 7,000 airline flights have been grounded. Long queues were seen in front of shops as residents hope to stock up food and other supplies ahead of the massive blizzard in the U.S. East Coast. Washington is expected to be the worst hit.
Well, I came here to try to get some last-minute produce items, and they're either sold out or they chose to put it in storage in anticipation that they'll be closed tomorrow. But unfortunately, I'm coming out empty-handed, so I'll just have to make do with what I have in my refrigerator.
This storm will be deadly. We need people off the streets. So if you expect to see your street to be plowed during the day on Saturday or going through Saturday evening, it's not going to happen. We're going to keep the roads passable. We're going to make sure our emergency crews can get to where they need to. And then come Sunday, late Saturday night, Sunday, depending on the weather, that's when we're going to start in earnest the digging out of the city.
At least 8 people have been killed in snow-related incidents in Tennessee, North Carolina and Kentucky. State of emergency have been declared in Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, the District of Columbia and parts of other states. Over 85 million people are in the path of the huge blizzard, which has life and death implications. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, staying with international news, a nationwide curfew was imposed in Tunisia after unrest and protests spread to towns across the country. The massive civil disturbances are revisiting the country 5 years after it overthrew its longtime ruler and moved onto the road to democracy. The government has now warned that the current trend could push the country into the hands of the Islamic State group militants in neighbouring Libya.
After 4 days of protests and rioting, Tunisia placed under nationwide curfew, the nation facing its worst unrest since the uprising 5 years ago that toppled autocrat Zine El Abidine Ben Ali.
جيعان وعنده فقر في جهات مهمشة، وهذا مسألة دائمة. ما نجموش نجيو إنسان ما ياكلش ونقول له زيد اصبر، لكن يقع وكونه في بعد انطلاق هذه المسيرات.
On Friday, many regions including Kasserine and Sidi Bouzid erupted with demonstrations. In Tunis, demonstrators blocked roads and burned tires in the streets. At least 19 people were arrested.
بعض قطاع الطريق والسراق ويعني استغلوا هذا الظرف خاصة في بعض المناطق اللي مجاورة لتونس وقاموا بالسرقات والاعتداء على.
Spokesman of Tunisia's leftist Popular Front, Hamma Hamani, warned that the protests could spread as more needs to be done to address the country's impoverished population.
المطالب المحتجين والمحتجات اليوم مشروعة ولا ماهيش مشروعة؟ وشكون المسؤول اللي خلى الأوضاع توصل للحد هذا؟ ناس عايشة في الجوع وناس عايشة في الفقر وناس عايشة في التهميش. شو يحبوهم يمشوا لداعش؟ يحبوهم يتيحوا في الكحولية والمخدرات؟
Tunisia has been held up as a model for democratic progress since the 2011 revolution that toppled Ben Ali. But rising discontent over lack of jobs, high living costs, especially in the country's interiors, have only inflamed national sentiment.
طرحنا ضريبة استثنائية على واستثنائية وظرفية معناها وقتية على الثروات الكبرى. المسألة الثانية تسديد المديونية أصلا وفوائد لمدة 3 سنوات. وهل الإجراء هذا راه ماهوش بدعة؟
There is also concern over attacks by Islamist militants, including an assault on a beach resort in June that killed 39 people. The government said it was imposing a dawn-to-dusk curfew then to safeguard public and private property from protests. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Let's get you more international news updates now in Global Buzz. At least 43 people, including 17 children, drowned when their boats capsized off 2 Greek islands near the Turkish coast on Friday, marking one of the deadliest days for migrants risking the perilous route to Europe from Turkey. It was not clear why the vessel capsized, but witnesses said that strong winds were blowing at the time. Hundreds of refugees and migrants are stranded at the border between Greece and Macedonia, enduring freezing cold. Macedonia shut and then opened its border with Greece to refugees several times this week. On Friday, it again stopped accepting refugees heading north from Greece to wealthier European countries, leaving around 750 people stranded on the Greek side of the border. Haiti has postponed its presidential election again amid scenes of unrest in the capital Port-au-Prince. Anger has erupted amid claims that the first round was rigged to favor the ruling party candidate. Due to take place on Sunday, the deciding vote has now been called off by electoral authorities for security reasons. There's no word on when it will be rescheduled. This third postponement was welcomed by the opposition supporters, but they remain angry. And finally, some cricket action now in Australia's 18-match winning streak at home came to an end after some excellent batting from Manish Pandey guided India to a victory finally in the final ODI against Australia in Sydney. This is the first time that any team has chased more than 300 runs to complete victory against Australia in their own backyard. India will retain the number 2 ranking in ODIs with this win.
Absolutely. All 5 games, the Indian batters have done exceptionally well.
An unbeaten Australian stretch in all formats dating back to November 5th, 2014 came to an end on Saturday at the SCG, where India chased down 330 for the loss of 4 wickets with 2 deliveries to spare. On the back of Manish Pandey's first ODI 100 after sparkling 50s from Shikhar Dhawan and Rohit Sharma. Dhawan provided the start, Rohit soaked up the pressure, and Pandey in his 4th match ensured their aborted innings did not hurt India, scoring an unbeaten 104 from 81 balls that was exciting both for the sizzling shots on view and the youngsters' composure. His special effort sealed the highest successful chase in and against Australia, as well as India's first win in 6 ODIs. Earlier in the day, David Warner's 5th one-day international century and a maiden ton from Mitchell Marsh helped Australia pile on a commanding 330 for 7.
They should get 3. It's his first ODI century.
After India skipper Mahendra Singh Dhoni asked the home team to take first strike, opener Warne laid the foundation with 122 of 113 balls, while Marsh remained unbeaten on a brisk 102 of 84 deliveries. This was the 4th time in the series that Australia crossed the 300-plus mark. Warner struck 9 4s and 3 6s, while Marsh found the fence 9 times and cleared it twice. Australia lost the last match's centurion Aaron Finch in the first over to Ishant, following which Warner shared a half-century stand with informed skipper Steve Smith. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And that's all we have for you on the news tonight. Good night.